Lotus.
Yes. Yo, you already know what it is. Coming to you live in effect from the Tri-Cities. It's Tri-Town Tory, and I got my homegirl Lyric in the house. How's it going, Lyric?
Hey, what's happening, bro? Glad to be here.
Hey, if you're listening to this, you already know a couple things. One thing for sure, two things for certain, that we are in season 2 of the Tri-Town Tory Talk podcast. And we're coming to you live in effect like we always do. We carry a large array of different topics. My podcast primarily is to focus on the artists and the entrepreneurs of the Northwest and all the way down the West Coast. And we even go down south, and we might pop up on the East Coast. Fuck it, we might go to Canada and see what's popping with Tory Lanez and Drake. But we do it all, and we all make it pop in the Northwest because that's the pivotal hub for what we do. So I got my homegirl Lyric in the house, and if you know anything about Lyric, then you're in for a treat because the things that we're going to talk about are only going to go to enhance the story that you know. But if you have no idea of who Lyric is, you're going to get your introduction here today. And now the way that I usually start my podcast is I like the origin story. I like to take it back to the very beginning. You know, I want to see where somebody comes from, and I want to see where the seed is planted as far as their love for music and art and culture. So, Lyric, if you were going to take us back in that DeLorean, you know, that time machine, where does it all start for you? Where do all the elements come together for you?
Man, when I was young, honestly, I started in the church, singing in the choir. As I got older, I started writing poetry, just off of things that I went through in life. You know, I wasn't raised with my mother, but I was raised with my family and also in foster care as well. You know, but just being able to vent somewhere where people could see it as art. At the end of it never started as art. It started as my life. You feel
Expression.
me? Yes, it did.
Yeah.
It started as being able to put my pain and my emotions or my happiness down into something that I could go back and look into as memories.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's what it started as, honestly. And as I got older, you know, I started doing the poetry slams and singing in the choirs. I did the jazz band, the jazz choir. Then I started playing instruments and recorded my first song at the age of 18, you feel me, in a walk-in closet.
Oh, dope.
Yeah. And,
so you got music in the family, right? You got musicians that play?
Oh, yeah. My dad, actually, he was a member of Earth, Wind & Fire, you feel me?
There we go.
Yeah,
okay.
my pops, Stanell Atkins, he was signed to the Warner Brothers in the 80s. He had a group called the Atkins, him and my uncle Reliant. And I think one of his sisters, I believe, if I'm right, don't quote me on that, but yeah, it was a dope thing to know that that's where I came from. I wasn't really raised with them. I never really reached out for help with this music thing. I've always been independent. I've always wanted to just kind of make my own name for my own self. You know what I'm saying?
So you don't necessarily use your ties
No,
to
not
get
at all.
you anywhere.
Not at all.
Where does the love for hip hop start? Do you remember buying a cassette or a CD? You know, because I'm an old head, so.
Yeah, man. I remember living at my auntie Athena's house, man, and she bought me this karaoke machine when I was about 13 years old. And I remember putting in blank tapes and playing regular songs. Like, I remember when the Usher album came out, but yeah. When that came out, man, and me and my cousin used to go down there, and I would throw the microphone over the HVAC, the vent.
Yep.
Because I had my room downstairs, and I would throw the microphone over it. I'd plug it up to my boombox, and I'd put on Usher songs or Ray J songs. You know, this was when Ray J came out with his One Wish, and Marcus Houston came out with his Off in the Club. All that shit.
That was a golden era.
B2K, you know.
That was a golden era.
Yes, it was, sir. So that came out, and all of a sudden, you know, I'd put those tapes in, and we'd make our own songs over them. You know, kind of just little funny stuff.
Karaoke kind of style.
Yeah. But then I started really getting into it. Like, I really started singing the shit out of that. You know what I'm saying? And realizing that music was what made me feel alive. You feel me? And it was at that moment that I knew, like, this is something that is gonna be my everything. This is something that is going to make me feel like I can push through anything at any point in time in my life.
It was like a a way of feeling whole, a way of feeling complete.
Yes.
Because you mentioned that you've been through foster care and things of that nature.
Yes.
If you could speak to a kid who's listening to that right now and they're currently in the beginning stages of that sort of life, you want to give them some sort of encouragement or motivation, what would you tell somebody who's, a young kid about getting through the tough times of foster care? How would you motivate them? How would you empower them?
Man, I would just tell them, stick with your siblings. I know that's one thing that happens in the system a lot. They get separated from their siblings. Me and my brother and my family as well fought for me and my brother to stay together, and we're very close now. He's one of my best friends, and I would say do that because people get lost. People forget where they come from. When they don't have a piece of themselves with them, they forget where they come from, and it's easy to get lost in the system and succumb to gangs and doing just a bunch of things that make you feel like you're like you belong to something. You know what I'm saying?
Fit in to something.
Yeah, part of the reason why I went to the streets was because I felt abandoned. I felt abandoned at one point by my parents and my mom. She did what she did. She was in the streets a lot. She was on dope a lot, and so I was always looking for a mother figure, and I found it in a gangster. You know what I'm saying? I was looking for a father, and I found it in a gangster. And I would just tell them, don't go looking for love in the wrong places, and keep those that your siblings, and keep those you love close to you, because they're always gonna, when they know your best intentions, they're always gonna remind you of where you came from and what your life is worth.
So what would you say to the young kid who wants to be on the defense against fake love or misleading love? They can kind of brainwash them into thinking shit's one way when it's really not. And is there a way for them to? Because these young kids, they're so smart. All they really need is a push in the right direction. Not necessarily a push, but a nudge in the right direction, and they can kind of figure it out on their own. But I know, me personally, when I was growing up, I couldn't decipher what was real and what was fake as far as love that you would get from the streets or friends or whatever, in school, because I just wanted to be accepted.
Right.
I just wanted to fit in with somebody, anybody. I didn't care whoever the first people who accepted me were going to be my homies.
Right.
If I could look back then, what I would have told myself now is take your time. Take your time and don't necessarily just jump to any kind of invitation to do anything. Just be okay with being alone. Understand that. Feel it and understand it's a real part of life. And just know it's not going to be forever. Because a lot of us, we jump to things like joining gangs or getting a girl pregnant to start a family too early because we just don't want to be alone. And I think that's part of your story too. A lot of us artists, we long for something just so deep and so eternal that we couldn't even recognize it if it walked in front of us.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So, let's take it back to when you're first starting making music. Were you in California when you were making music initially?
No, I really started creating music in the Tri-Cities, but I started being a part of music in the church when I was in Tacoma, Seattle. Started up at Hilltop Church, the Sure House Church up on Hilltop.
And just so I get my facts straight, where were you born?
I was born in Indio, California.
Okay. So
Yes,
I knew that you came from California.
Right.
But you lived a large part of your life in the Northwest. Right?
Yes. I was raised in Lakewood. My auntie Athena out there, the Gregories, you know what I'm saying? And I moved out here due to my actions and me just wanting to be out there and just be grown. I was playing ball. I was a all-season athlete out there, and I just lost sight of my goal and just wanted to kick it too much. I let the girls and the parties and all that stuff kind of take over me, and lost sight of my basketball dream. You know what I'm saying? Because I was always good in sports, but I've always been more good in music. I feel like I think at the end of the day, I feel like I never really lost. If I could go back and change it, my actions, I'd slow it down. You know what I'm saying? I'd do a lot of things. I stay more disciplined and in my studies. That way I have a better backup plan, like my family always said, you know, to have a backup plan. You know, but coming into now, I realize that everything happens for a reason, you know, and there's a reason God gave me this voice and this talent to do this. And it's always a bigger reason than how we think it is.
Yes.
It's a bigger meaning. Bigger
picture.
It's bigger than us. Yes.
Yeah, and if you're like me, you didn't always see that sort of perspective.
No.
Sometimes when we're younger, our judgment is clouded, and they want to say that we got our head shoved up our ass or something.
Yeah,
you know?
like we know it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that might be true to a certain extent, but I think that deep down inside, a lot of people want to do what's right, or they want to end up where they need to be at.
Right.
And I know that we don't discover our purpose right away when it comes to making music and things of that nature. You came up in a different environment than a lot of rappers around here in the Northwest, because it's chill out here, but it's not Cali chill, you know, it's a different vibe. You guys have a natural like ambiance that comes from the environment in which you live. But then also to counteract that, there's the environment in which you live, where it's lit, it's live.
Yeah.
You have to be alert 24/7, because that 1 minute that you don't look to the left could be the last time that you don't look to the left.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, that's so real, bro. I think it's easy for people to succumb to the things around them when they don't really know the people around them. You know, you can know somebody face value, but not know who they are behind closed doors. You feel me? And there's always a story behind how somebody is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to know people's story. That's something I always learned from my brother. He always taught me, talk to somebody, because you never know what their story is. You can judge somebody before you talk to them and never know who they are.
And it kind of cheats you and them.
Right.
Because you guys could really be a lot further in your guys' friendship or communication, but instead you're too busy clinging on to your idea of what is reality.
Who did we think they are? The perception. Yeah, that's real.
And you know that like how we met through CJ, you know, our homie CJ, shout out to him. And I think that that's really dope, because without him being our link, if we see each other out there at a show or whatever, we're rappers first and foremost. And rappers have this natural bullshit about them where they just like, oh, if you don't come up to me, then I ain't gonna come up to you.
Yeah, I know, and that sucks.
And we all do it to a certain extent, because maybe we just don't feel like talking to anybody anyways. Right. You know, but we make it personal when it comes to a one-on-one. Like, hey, did you see so-and-so at the show? How come you didn't go say hi to them? Like, well, they didn't come up to me. Like, how am I gonna go and say hi to them if I don't know how they feel about me? Right. You know, I'm gonna go be the clown that goes up and shows love, daps you up, and you're like, man, get this motherfucker out. I'm like, you know? Like, I would hate that, because it's like, I would never want to inconvenience you if that's the kind of energy that you're riding. If that's your wave, I don't want to get in front of that. I don't want to be around that. But a lot of times, a lot of good music, a lot of good situations, shows, collaborations, like whether it's music or fashion or whatever, is waiting on the other side of your fucking ego. Yeah. And we just can't get to it sometimes. And it's because of the deeply rooted childhood shit that a lot of us go through, where we feel like we have to be all about ourselves. We gotta have it back against the wall. You know, like, I can't trust anybody because they're gonna stab me in the back. Yeah. Or keep the grass cut because the snakes are waiting for me, you know?
Yeah, it's a common mentality, man. It's something that I feel like is ingrained in every person's mind that's been come into hurt or come into disloyalty or betrayal. I feel like that is a setting that we just turn on, but it can also be a setting that you can turn off. I feel like it's a choice not to want to trust somebody. It's a choice not to want to believe something that comes out of somebody's mouth, even though that's what they're telling you, you know?
And you have no reason to not necessarily...
You have no reason not to.
It's like their Carfax clears out.
Yeah. You know come on. Yeah.
So I think it's so interesting, because these are the things that people don't put into words, and therefore they don't fix. Because if it isn't on the table, how can you fix it? Right. And I know that there's a lot of rappers that are homies. They're fucking friends. Like, they're friends, and they don't even reach out to each other. So when they see each other in public, it's like, oh, it's weird. you know? And that's some weird shit, because if you allow that much distance and time to come between you and your friends, you got some sort of issue yourself, you know? True. That's why I like with me and my friendships, I could literally hit them up and be like, yo, you know, how you doing? You know, it's been a minute, but what's popping with you? I'm still the same motherfucker, you know? You know, since it's been like a year or so since we've kicked it, but you've been popping up in my memory so much. Not just my real memory, but like the stories and everything the social media regurgitates towards you, right?
Oh yeah, vice versa, man.
And it is crazy because you're just like, man, we were doing that much work?
Yeah, work.
You know, like we were recording damn near an EP, and I saw the collaboration when we brought the homegirl Alicia through. Remember?
She's dope. She's dope.
She hit me up and she said, you know, thank you for the opportunity to come out and do that.
Right.
And I said, you know, I just love when I can make those things happen, because I can see it in my head.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can bring it into a reality.
Right.
And when I try to do that, if all parties are all systems a go, then we can do it.
Right.
You are very unique in the sense where you're very welcoming and allow people to enter your domain, as long as they show respect.
Right.
Because you love the intrigue. I feel like you love the intrigue of life, where the unexpected could happen in the best possible way.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I live for too as well. We understand those things. That's why people come around us, because we're fun.
Yeah.
We make things happen because we know what's possible. And we've seen it happen before. So we can recreate the magic whenever we want to.
Yeah.
That's why you could get rented Airbnb out, hit up a couple friends, and next thing you know, you got 20 people in there kicking it cold, you know?
Oh, we're freestyling.
Man,
that was last tour, man.
Drinking, the last tour. We didn't get into that, that's for sure.
Oh, man, yeah.
But just to cap off this idea, we kind of showed the spectrum of what happens when you don't reach out to people that you know, or people you don't know, right, and what you cheat yourself of. The possibilities that could come of you actually communicating with those people.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important thing to see in its full spectrum, because there's a lot of young rappers that they don't want to look dumb. They don't want to do things that are going to confuse their fans, the little bit of fans that they got. So they would think that they have to just be one character, one dimension, and they can't really change from that, right? Yeah. When in reality, you can be a whole 3D motherfucking character out here.
Real. Yeah.
And you could be moving, walking, doing your whole fucking thing. I document a lot of the things that I go through in life, because it's just second nature for me to save the memories, but also to project myself for my fans to see.
Come on. Yeah.
You know? So I don't think it's weird when I take pictures of real life events and share them with my supporters, because my supporters are my fans. They're my family. I don't see a difference between the two.
Yeah.
And I'm rare, because I know that the rest of the world doesn't operate in that sense, because there's like a divide between what's private and what's public, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about it, the internet has dissolved every sense of that being a possibility anymore. I mean, without thinking about it, your private world is now the public world, because you can't you can't necessarily say anything that won't get you in trouble in the public domain, because everything is up for game.
Yeah.
If you rub the wrong amount of people wrong, then you are subject to being the next person who's offended, and the next person who's in cancel culture or whatever the situation is. I had a thought recently, and I was thinking to myself, like, back in the day, you could go outside and you could be like, fuck the world, yell it out loud, and that there wouldn't be an issue with that. But now if you do it, if one person hears it, they can call the cops on you. And now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then it turns into this whole thing where there is no more freedom in that sense. Because if the only place you can be free is your home, but then your phone projects your home to the world, it's like there is no freedom in that sense. We give it up in guise of entertainment, and you know.
We do, man. That they call it the land of the free, mm-hmm, the home of the brave, mm-hmm, for a reason. You know what I'm saying? Because they tell us that we're free, mm-hmm, but you have to be a whole nother type of brave to be able to stand out, mm-hmm, and not get shut down.
True.
In this country,
like the baby.
Yeah, that's real.
Honestly, I'm gonna give it up for, because I understand nuance. And I understand that somebody who talks in jest doesn't necessarily mean that that's how they feel about something in real life. Like, for example, when the baby was criticizing or when he was making slanderous statements towards the homosexual community and just saying really nasty shit in a weird way, I took it as him joking with his friends. Like, he was just joking, right? But you did it on the world stage. because the internet has all these cameras on you. So now,
so
going
now
back to what we were saying about freedom and how there's no real freedom anymore.
Right.
Because if you were at a concert, you're performing, you know that it's going to get around the internet, you think, it's a joke, right? Everybody knows it's a joke.
Right.
So I shouldn't be canceled because of this. And then immediately it comes out that that's how you feel. And now you can't change that narrative.
Not at all.
So you get dropped from every fucking festival except for one. I think it was Hot 97.
Man, that's tough. That's gotta be tough. Like it's a part of rejection from something that's loved you and got you where you are. So how do you take it? How do you battle your fans on that? How do you battle the people, the promoters, the managers?
Who do you please?
How do you battle that? Who put you on? So it's like I had to be a tough position. You know what I'm saying? In that case,
it's like feeding the wolves, because the wolf that you feed the less is the one that's gonna eat you.
Yeah.
So you have the people, you have the entertainment industry as a mechanism, you have all the groups that run the mechanism. You got so many different beasts that you have to feed in order to keep the one wolf from eating you.
Right.
And the one that you stop feeding is the one that takes you out of entertainment or your life or whatever the situation is. So it's just really interesting how when nobody does anything, these systems create their own side effects.
Oh yeah.
How crazy is that shit?
And I feel like it's all American-like. It's
part of the machine.
Yeah, it's part of the machine, man.
And that's what Pac was talking about in a large sense when he talks about how America likes to eat its own babies, and he saw it for what it was, because the same thing that'll hold you up in the light, as soon as that's no longer favorable, that'll be the same thing that brings you down.
Come on, yeah.
So like, look at Pac. They loved that he was a womanizer until allegations came out of him raping somebody.
Indeed.
Or R word. I don't know if we can be demonetized, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever say that word in a proper way. Like, you know how there's like a rape culture in America where I'm almost not ready to tackle that conversation, because you have to be very careful. But the whole like consensual and non-consensual thing.
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah. I think I might have to have you co-pilot me on that one, right?
I mean, come on.
We could tackle that one, but maybe on another pod. When we do round 2, maybe we'll tackle that. But there's a whole there's the kink world, right?
Right.
And how they make certain things popular in an underground sense. But if these things were to be taken to the mainstream level, then it horrifies the masses, and you could be convicted for such things. Like, let me give you an example. Marilyn Manson. I'm going right down the fucking lines.
Yeah.
Okay? This guy, it's no secret that he's always been into very rough shit. I mean, he puts it in his song lyrics. There's girls in his videos. If he wasn't into that kind of shit, I'd be surprised.
No, for real.
Right? Well, you get these girls who get into these relationships with these guys knowing that they are the way that they are. And we know that some women are actually into that sort of play.
Right.
And this is that whole conversation. I have to tread lightly, but I love the way this takes us. So let's say that somebody likes to be into that until it's no longer favorable in a relationship. Maybe something else is pissing her off in a relationship, and she wants to use that against you.
Yeah.
So now, when you were doing all these rough things that was exciting, it turns into you were doing all these rough things that were abusive.
Yeah.
And it's very hard for you to back yourself up knowing that you did put hands on somebody, but maybe it was in a consensual way, right? But they're saying that you did it in an abusive way that wasn't consensual. And I'm not standing up for Marilyn Manson. I'm just talking about the whole topic.
Yeah.
Because I'm creating a scenario that's a hypothetical. So let's say that you were like very rough in a relationship with a girl, right?
Yeah.
But then she turns around and says that you beat her.
Right.
And she could be going off of her mind state knowing that she's actually done physical things with you, but knowing that that's disingenuous because you've never actually felt that way. You never ever brought pain to her, like in that regards. But when you were in the bedroom, you guys were rough.
Yeah.
And this is a crazy topic for Tory Talk, but I love it so much, so I'm going to continue to go. So let's say that comes up and is the reason why you get canceled, or the reason why you have to go to jail, or which seems to be the story for Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Doesn't that go back to our Tupac thing where he was a womanizer on songs and everybody loved him because how do you want it?
Because sexual songs, you know,
right,
people in the vibe.
But then when let's say a girl comes through and says, no, he raped me, and you know that you did have sex with her, it's gonna be easier for her to lie because she knows that a physical act was done. So she can kind of harbor her emotions off of that situation. And I'm speaking only particular to this case because I think they found out that was incorrect. That Pac did not rape her. Right? I'm speaking to like somebody who's a compulsive liar or pathological liar in how they can play an actor role to get their lie across.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to get your lie across when you've actually physically had some sort of hand in what you're imagining.
Yeah.
Are you still with me on this, or am I off? Because I kind of want to go a little bit further. That's when I think this whole internet shit gets weird. Because there's the digital world in which you have an avatar that's not physical in any kind of sense. It's just in people's heads. It's an imaginative thing.
Yeah.
And then you have the real physical person who has to live the life day to day, who has to go to work, who has to raise his family, her family, whatever the situation be. But in this digital space, lies can become true.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a real interesting world because immediately it's always she's right. Believe her. And I totally believe that's 99.9% of the time, yes, that's always the case. Believe her. But for that 0.0000001 or whatever,
it's the way of the world, man. When you got money, like, I feel like they're more likely to believe somebody that has nothing because they have nothing. So they're like, why would they lie?
Exactly.
You know, but what they don't look at is, why wouldn't they lie? You know what I'm saying? Like, this person has all of this power. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, and you want to take from them.
Yeah.
You want to take either clout or financial gain or whatever. Just want to see them burn.
Right.
You know? So, like, when this happens on a corporate level, is this the new Illuminati that we're seeing? And what I mean by that is when they can unplug you from the world.
Oh, yes.
And your music's out of the libraries.
Yeah, that's some power, man.
And your performances are out of the festivals. Like, this is a plug and play kind of Illuminati. Man,
that's the worst thing you could do for somebody, I think, is you're going after somebody. I watched an interview today with Mozzie and Lavish D. And man, they got mad years of beef going on. And one of the main things that he said was Mozzie didn't go after his name, he went after his money. He just went around. He said, one thing that I heard from every man, model, promoter, producer that I talked to was don't fuck with him. He says don't fuck with you. And that was all it took, bro. Was just a conversation of your unlikeliness to work with somebody or fuck with somebody and them be on the same mindset as you because of the power that you have. Like, that shit hit me, bro, and I was like, man, that's just how it's a cutthroat industry.
Yeah.
Like, it's really like that, though.
But you're even speaking deeper to like how things work on a local level too.
Right. It all comes to a source.
Ooh, let's do this. The Tri-Cities is very interesting when it comes to making music locally.
Yes.
Because you have your kings and queens. You have people who have achieved their notoriety or their success by their own merit. So they have their own fans and they have their own way of life. They have their own culture, so to speak.
Right.
And like every king has a kingdom that he feels he must defend. So he creates moats to put in between him and anybody who isn't a part of his kingdom or her kingdom. And you realize that the Tri-Cities has been like this, if we're talking in the same sense, for so long that we don't even see when people used to really rock with each other. Right?
For real.
Real talk.
So
when you have a change is when you have like a jester or some sort of like somebody who isn't taken serious, who kind of runs through all these empires and kind of brings so much attention to the ground. Like when you are having to look at the citizens as opposed to your own kingdom, like to what's going on, that's when you start to change your mentality about how poppin' you are.
Yeah.
So these kings and queens are looking over their castle walls and they're seeing a jester who's just turning up out there and making people followers of him or her.
Yeah.
I'm describing what I've done in the Tri-Cities myself.
Right.
Because when I came in the game, I had nothing. I had no cosign. I had no credibility. The only thing that I had was my love for the music and knowing that I had the ability to create a unique flavor of what the Tri-Cities had to offer.
Word.
So rather than running into somebody's castle and trying to intern as a fucking knight, or like get myself up in some royalty or something, I couldn't do that because I didn't know the proper way of communicating my way through the very entry level of each kingdom. Because you have to grow up with motherfuckers.
Right.
You have to go to school with motherfuckers. You got to know how those kind of handshakes and those kind of things work. And if you don't have that information, good luck. You ain't gonna last in the moat, let alone on the doorstep, right?
Yeah.
So while this is going on, I realize I don't need their attention. I don't need their love. I can actually make them pay attention to me and act like they don't fucking exist.
That's real.
And that's what I did in the Tri-Cities. What I did is I created my own brand of Tri-Cities music. I found a sound with my own buddies, my own family who are producing, and we created our own sound out here.
Yeah.
And it got to the point of where we were shooting music videos and creating anthems that people were singing outside of Tri-Cities in Washington that were about Tri-Cities.
Word.
I have people in Montana going, Tri-Town Tory, we did it in a day. They hated on the story, we did it anyway. My way, the highway. The words I didn't say. I put away rappers like they put away their tapes.
Hey.
You know what I'm saying? They're screaming Tri-Town Tory in Montana or fucking Oregon or Cali. So what I want to do, I want to bring this all the way back to us real quick. When you realize the difference between what you're used to and your new home, your new stomping grounds, and you know that you're built to survive in more high pressure situations, two things can happen. You can either dominate an area because you are balling like a like Julius Erving in a fucking middle school basketball game. Like, you're the most experienced person in your radius. So you create such a wave that the rest of the world kind of latches onto you, or the rest of the town latches onto you. And it doesn't matter that you're from out of town anymore. Right? Or you level out to what's going on out here and blend into the sound and create a more organic underground approach that's like a bubbling. And then by the time that you are popping, it's too late to remove you. Yeah. Because you're deeply ingrained. One speaks to more of a temporary and one speaks to longevity. Do you think that you're more of the longevity type, where you have to bubble over time and kind of like deeply ingrain yourself in in an environment?
Yeah, I do. I truly do, because I feel like I don't ever disappoint people as far as music. I feel like my content is something everybody can relate to, but at the same time, people know the story because they've been listening since the beginning. So I feel like over time, people that have listened to what I've had to say, stories through my life that I put in my music, or just experience, or just having a good time. You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff that I put in my music, other people hear and they're like, damn, like she's actually saying something. And then they're like, okay, well, this is that music that we've been wanting. And the more people that catch on, that's where my fans come from. I feel like a lot of my loyal fans of Lyric, like, that's where they come from. Is being there since the beginning. That's what I mean when I say loyal fan of Lyric.
Oh, hell yeah. Because that's what I've noticed, like when you see pictures of people wearing your merchandise. And,
word. I brought you some tonight too. Man.
Oh,
yeah. I had to bring you a gift, man. I brought you that in the mixtape.
I appreciate you so much. I got the same thing for you. I got some stuff for you too.
Yeah.
And that's why I love you too. Honestly, because ever since I met you, you're one of the most giving, most generous people that I've ever met. I remember seeing you do things for people that would inconvenience your own day, but you knew that if you helped them out, everything was going to work out in the end.
Yes, sir.
And that's a characteristic that you don't see at all anymore. I have another friend who's like that too, my buddy Tyson. He will do anything in the world for people, but sometimes, I feel like it doesn't always come back to him. And that's unfortunate. But what I try to do is I try to put him in everything that I do. Like he's in a couple music videos.
Yeah.
A couple shows that I've had. He's opened up and did his own comedy set.
Yeah.
Because he's a fan of hip hop, but you know, he's a white guy who was a pro MMA fighter at one point. He was ex-military. He's a comedian now and a barber. Like,
yeah.
So I meet him where he's at.
Right.
And he's gonna listen to this, and I think he'll appreciate what I'm saying. He look at the podcast. He was my first guest. He did 2 episodes. Part 1 and part 2 were my first 2 episodes for Tory Talk.
Yeah.
You see, like, if that isn't supportive of everything that I do, I just don't know what the fuck support is anymore.
Come on.
I'm telling you.
That's support, man. I have a friend like that.
So I love him, and it's weird because it's almost like we can't say that we love our friends, which is retarded. Because I tell my friends that I love them all the time. But I think it's because we're so deprived that just to hear somebody say it, it's kind of shocking.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, that motherfucker loves things? That's suspicious.
Yeah, no, for real.
Yeah. But I like that people like us, we wear our heart on our sleeve and we make it cool to kind of be in our own truth, our own skin, you know?
Yeah, it's a little dangerous sometimes, man.
And can you speak to some of the dangers of being authentic, being real, you know, living your own truth? You know, like, speak to some of those dangers. Like,
it's, man, just waking up and knowing that every day that you have a passion to get to, and trying to balance everything around you, and make sure those things are in order with your life and your paths and what you believe. Doing that every day, it has to become so important to you when you have a passion, when you have a dream. You have to realize that it goes in that order. You know what I'm saying? Your passion, your love, your dream, your balance. It's all one in one. You know what I'm saying?
You're big on balance.
Very, very. It gets out of order sometimes. Sometimes you can get lost for a little bit, but you come right back. You have to come right back to it.
Let's talk about balance. Let's talk about how we balance things out. Like you have your own brand of way of thinking when it comes to this, and I love it so much.
Right.
How do you restore balance? Like, how do you make sure that you're even? You're on an even keel, where you're leveled out.
I tap right back into myself. I meditate, and I put that. I have to recharge. You know.
You meditate to recharge.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you do self-care?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Meditation, self-care.
Yes.
We're creating kind of like a checklist for people who are listening, because when I heard about self-care, I thought like, oh, that's the thing girls do.
Nah, it's something everybody should do. Right?
Yeah. But I found this out because I had a homegirl who told me about like skin products that you could like wash your face with, and also like bath bombs that have like fucking like cooling gel and shit in them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
all the sort of, you know, like taking care of yourself. It's important, and you realize that's the reason why some people dress up.
Yeah.
Because when you dress up, your best self is coming out.
Come on, yeah.
Because your depressed ass self is not gonna get fly.
Not at all, man.
If anything, you're gonna be in sweats and a hoodie and just mope around and shit, you know?
Yeah.
Which is fun too sometimes, but
yeah.
But real smoke though, if you have an album to drop, if you have videos to do, you want to be 100.
Right. That's real, man.
And I noticed that about you, that I never see you where you're not popping. Like where the tags are not popping. And, you know, it's always crispy. It's always
I appreciate
fresh.
that.
And I wonder, does that come from where you come from, your environment, or does that come from the time period in which you came from?
Man, that comes from just trying to feel good about myself. My uncle always told me, if you look good, you feel good.
Timeless.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yes.
But who was dressing like who gave you the blueprint? Like, this is how we do it, young blood. Like,
man,
the drip
I can't
came
really
from everywhere.
say much, man. I just swag out, man. I just do what I feel. I just do what I feel like, man. And
some original.
I mean, man, I used to match my drawers with my bras, man.
There you go. Okay. I used
to iron them in the.
You got your own code of ethics when it comes to the drip.
I don't wear my drawers and my socks no more, but I mean, I still match. You know what I'm saying? I've just always been, you know, kind of color coordinated, but I love the drip, man. I love the swag out.
You know, I'll answer the same question in my life, because I want to give it a little nuance. My influence for like my style and like how I dress kind of comes from my uncle. I have an uncle, my Uncle Junior, who he was the one who was tatted up. He was a graffiti artist. He used to wear all the fresh, like, Tommy Hilfiger, the 90s shit, like Nautica windbreakers. Like the fucking, he had hats on hats. Man. He would have the red sneakers that he would do with the light blue jeans with the white tee and the fucking hat. Like, that's the way he dressed. It was real graffiti, real skateboardish before, that was a thing.
Yeah.
And I looked at that guy like, God damn. Like, that's how I want to look. Like, real shit. And he was older than me. Like, he's probably like 10 years older than me. You know what I'm saying? But that was enough for me to have like that's like an older brother / uncle kind of like vibe, So I looked at him as like somebody who was very influential to me, even outside of who my dad was.
Right.
Because my dad's obviously the most powerful influence on who I am. For good or bad sometimes. But my uncle really, the drip and that came in the DNA from watching him, you know what I'm saying? So to give the whole spectrum, some people it's in them, it's not on them.
Oh yeah, it's definitely in you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what I always appreciated about you too, is that you're almost the polar opposite of who I am, but also who I am. Because I feel like my grind and my work ethic is only put to shame by someone like you, who also is always thinking about music, also is always writing, also always has access to recording themselves, and has the ability to drop whenever they want, and can make music videos happen whenever they want. You're very much so like an artist who I would want to align myself with under any other sort of circumstances. Let's say that I blow the fuck up, and then I get all this motherfucking bread. You don't think I'm going to be looking for to do some 50-50 deals?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, my boy's doing that right now.
And that's the kind of energy that I want to bring. I want to turn this all into a business in the Northwest that also is an institute. That means that we create safe ways for people to express their art and for in the future to get the royalties and have their family set up. I think we can do this smart. You know how like every industry
like that out here.
Every industry that's out there is geared up to make the person who has to take the sacrifices also have the most consequences, which is unfortunate. How is it that you're paying the most into something and yes, you're gonna get the shit end of it and it's gonna fuck you up? Yeah. That's how so many things are.
Right.
But in this new industry that I see, the new Northwest that I see it being ran by like cryptocurrency. And NFTs being a big part of it, and also because the metaverse is coming, so music's gonna play a big part. Artists think that they ain't getting paid for shit now. If they're gonna be relevant in the next 10-15 years, they're gonna get paid more than they ever have.
Yeah.
But it's all about having the foresight, because if you have music and you have the ownership to it now and it's online, it's gonna convert over into the next internet, which is the metaverse, right? And when that happens, the value of everything skyrockets. Because you can only be in that world if you're rich. That metaverse is going to go right next to the regular internet. So the rest of the world is paupers are just going to have the fucking low rundown internet world. It's going to be like Flintstones and Jetsons. Because in the metaverse, you're going to be able to live in any kind of fucking futuristic world that you like. And the technology will cater to it. There will be things that are only possible in that world that in our world we wouldn't even be able to see. Right?
That's interesting. I like that.
Right?
I like that.
So check out music and all sorts of art are going to take shape. It's going to be like the final frontier for art.
Yeah.
Because music is going to be priced at like an NFT rate. Because if you're in this world where everybody has fuck you money, it's like every performance is a Sweet 16 for a millionaire.
Yeah.
It's like everything
it's
that
a world
you do.
Of entertainment.
It's a world of rich people.
Yes.
Only rich people. They
true.
exclude us from it completely. And the only access that you have to it is through some sort of entertainment. This is a real interesting concept because us putting words to it is actually building it in my head.
That's real.
And I can actually see it for what it is. But imagine a world where regular people who work regular day-to-day jobs or not middle class by any means, but they're just getting by. They don't know anything that's going on in this fucking utopia that's going on in the cloud.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody's brains are going to be at. But the best part of it is that you can send something that's disposable off into it and it brings back bread. You're sending music off into this world and it's bringing back checks into this reality. That's what the goal is, and that's what the future is going to be like.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is getting there. And you got people who are retiring from music every second. Quitting music every second.
I couldn't do it, man.
I could never do it.
I couldn't do it, man. No matter what I go through, no matter what comes at me, I couldn't give it up. I couldn't stop.
I think that the pace that we're going, we're going to have it all.
That's real.
Because we're just getting steam and getting started when people are already throwing in the towel.
I know, man. I've just being out here in Tri-Cities for 10 plus years. I realized that some of the guys I grew up with doing music with, they are no longer doing music anymore. I've seen guys out on the streets riding bikes, just off it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's a sad thing to see.
It's like dodgeball.
Yeah, man, it sucks, bro. It's like, damn.
You know why I say that? Because when you ever play dodgeball and you kind of like ducked out in the corner and waited till everybody got killed off, and then you came out and you were like,
yeah, you're like, I'm still going, like, yeah.
And then you win, and then
That's
you win.
Real. Yeah.
That's my whole thing. That this has always been dodgeball for me.
Come on.
And I knew that when everybody was turning themselves in, that I was gonna be the last one to pop out. Like, we ain't done yet, bitch. And then that's when the Northwest hits its peak.
Yeah.
I put it in my name, Tory Northwest, because that is the goal. That is the victory. The victory is Victory Northwest, Tory North.
Yeah.
I hacked the game, man. I tapped in from the inside and it worked outwards.
Hell yeah, bro.
So that's why I have the confidence to say that I know we're gonna see it all. We're gonna see this music thing manifest into its highest form before it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And only a few privileged folk are gonna see it from our side of things.
No, that's real. That's real. That's why I want all my friends now. Oh, like everybody after 2022 just might not be around me, man. I might not trust them. Like,
you're gonna lift the what do they call that? The in the castle with the drop bridge.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to drop the bridge on niggas. Like, I mean, and not really. I just mean like I'm gonna have to be a little more careful. I don't mean like I'm not gonna make friends after that. I mean after a certain point, you have to monetize what comes into your life. I mean, you should always do that, but I feel like the more you evolve, the more you elevate, the more the things that come at you.
Yeah.
That is so unexpected.
True.
That's real, and I don't know why life is just moves like that. Why things gravitate towards you like that. The more that you do things, I really think it's life just testing you.
It's a test.
It is, but I feel like at the end of the day, when you know that your path is a certain one, you're always trying to alter to move to make sure you stay on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it becomes the only path.
Yeah.
You will eliminate any other path just to make sure that it's the only one
that's the only one.
Yeah. And I think
that has to be your love.
A lot of us will do that in our relationships where we will completely burn relationships down to the ground because we know that it's going to be a lot faster when we have less weight to carry. And maybe I've been a victim of that in the past where I know that it was going to take a lot longer for me to get where I needed to go if I had to continuously check another person's feelings.
Right.
So maybe I have to play into some of the things that I've gone through, but that speaks to consequence. That speaks to being an adult and making those decisions when you need to.
Yeah.
Because if you continue to move down a path that has red flags, you can't get mad if you get impaled by a fucking red flag and it ends your shit. You know what I'm saying?
That's the realest, bro. That's the realest.
And that's facts because I've been in... Okay, let's just say this. I don't think that under any kind of other circumstances I could have made what I have going on now happen faster. I had to go through everything that I ever went through in order for me to create the stairway for me to get to where I'm at now.
Yes.
In your life, you had to create a couple stairwells a couple times. The same ones.
A lot of times, bro.
Because when you told me about how you were into sports and a certain thing derailed it, and then now you're into music and the possibility of the same things maybe coming back and derailing that too. What could you speak to on getting over some of the things that we know plague us? Like, let's say that we have a big heart and we allow people to get in and do any kind of damage that they want. And we do it because we're just good people, and we like to make ourselves accessible to those who are in need. You know, like, when is enough? Like, when do we say, no, I'm not going to continue to change things up for you? You know, like, is it easy? Like, is it an easy answer?
Oh man, no, it's not easy. It's easier said than done, is what it is. But I think the more that we realize who we are and we're around people that remind us of who we are, is the clearer the path.
Boom.
The way back to our path.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Yes.
I think that the people, it's energy and conductors, right?
Yes.
If you have your conducting field, every time you go around those beacons, you light up.
Yeah.
Because you know that the electricity still flows through the connection.
Yes.
Right? So as long as whenever you go around the people that you know, when the connection goes, the light goes on, you're still within the range that you need to be successfully yourself. Right? You haven't changed too much where you're so far gone that nobody can get to you. Right? So when you come around Indy, or when you come around me, or when you come around one of your other homies that maybe I don't know of, you got a lot of homies that maybe I don't know of that have the same connection with you. And maybe you're that beacon to other people that come around you and you light them up, right? Have you noticed that sometimes the light doesn't light up?
Yeah, I mean,
you come around somebody.
Yeah, you charge somebody up so much. Sometimes we give ourselves to people so much, to a love so much that we believe in. I think most of it is like looking for love in the wrong place, you know, and that's going back to what I would tell a young kid, you know, nip that habit, nip that longing, and it's something that's created that can be filled only with spiritual guidance. I feel like other than that, I feel like it's always going to be a hole we're always trying to fill. You know what I'm saying? But getting back into it, to make that person know that you're gonna be who you are regardless is the only thing that will offset you changing or anything.
Once you cement it, then there ain't no changing it.
Right.
And as long as the world understands that, they can function in your orbit.
Right.
And that's important because that goes in the workplace, that goes in relationships, that goes in public life, that goes in private life.
Yeah.
If people know that you're 10 toes down on your principles, they have to be cool with that.
Yeah.
Or else they can't function in your orbit.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think we lose sight of it sometimes. We kind of allow viruses to hack our software, so to speak. And it's because we know that we're doing it, but we're okay with it. It's a form of self-destruction. Because if you know that something is bad for you, but you still ingest it, it's like you want to perish. You You want to decompose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You want that about you.
Yeah.
So I urge people to really know themselves, to have a self-awareness of themselves, and realize that we disguise things we sugarcoat things as other things. When we boil down the truth to what it really is, it's a lot more dark than we imagine. But we just don't want to face those kind of things. And I was a young kid having dark thoughts, like, man, like, what the fuck am I even doing here? You know what I'm saying? A lot of kids have had those kind of thoughts.
Man, unfortunately.
And what I want them to know is that you have to find your purpose, and it's not going to find you. Your purpose is never going to knock on your fucking door and say, hey, start paying attention to this.
Come on.
So what you have to do is be so self-aware of your environment and who you are and what your life is. You got to be real. You got to think about what it is. You got to think about it from the whole aspect. Like, you got to have a perspective where you're looking down on it like the fucking video games that people are addicted to.
Yeah.
Right? But once you have that sort of insight in your life, then you can actually start to boil down the fat on what's not working.
Come on.
And when you do that, you can collect that fat and you can monetize off of it like we did with music. Right?
Yeah.
But what's left over is your real life.
Yes.
So you have to attend to that immediately. And I think that when we're growing up, we don't have people who tell us these things because maybe they don't know the language.
Right.
But if we even heard the words once, like we do in the music, like that we listen to, it has a powerful effect subconsciously, if not immediately, overtly. So if it doesn't take effect the next day, it's going to take effect in maybe the next year.
Right.
when I used to listen to Eminem and 50 Cent and yeah, mainly when that era started, I started being real introspective of myself. Because I was, 12, 13 years old. I started rapping. I started writing about the life I was going through. And I started to realize a lot about myself. What do you think about mental health in the aspect of psychology? Like thinking about yourself and like who you've learned you are and how you've been able to get through some of the mental hills and peaks, valleys and peaks.
I think that releasing is something that a lot of people don't really understand how it works. I think people release in a lot of ways. People are to where it almost becomes an addiction. Like meditation can be addicting. But it can also be an empowering and healing thing. Because you feel so good having all your energy. You feel so good feeling good.
Yep. Endorphins, everything.
Yeah, everything. But something else can also be addicting. The love that you get from someone. That could be either for you or completely not what you need.
Toxic.
It's toxic. But it's addicting. You know what I'm saying? Everybody tries to get a release somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Yep. Whether it's in a relationship or whether it's substance. Every way, I think just finding the right release. There's always I can't even say proper. There's always a better way to release.
Right.
Than something that's gonna
hurt you.
Harm you.
For sure. Totally 100% agree.
Yeah.
Like there's people who love to race. So what they do is they go to the track and they race on the track. It's legal to race on a right? So rather than racing on a hillside that they roll off a cliff and die, there's a safe release for that. And I think you're right. I think whatever your release is, there's a safe way to go about it. That's why, like, I have a Tri-Town Tory. I say, some people pop pills. See me, I smoke weed. Any kind of kush. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get it across that, like, the same things that you're doing to get a certain release from pills, you can get organically, safely through marijuana.
Yeah.
Like, if you smoke the right kind of shit, the right strain, you are going to feel the right kind of way, however you want to fucking feel. You don't have to damage your liver or damage your fucking body in some sort of way.
That's real,
because
man.
it's easily accessible because somebody's grandma gave you their medicine cabinet key or something, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, self-destruction's big with artists. Suicidal thoughts are big with artists.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that I never had suicidal thoughts until I thought about suicidal thoughts.
Man, it's a contagious thing.
It's weird because you can't even study it without becoming a victim to having your own sort of like thoughts.
Yeah.
Because like I've tried to study like other people's suicidal thoughts because I want to see what the components are and how they end up there. And then it's a quicksand trap because suddenly you're thinking about your mortality and like, oh, what if you were to kill yourself? But then it's like, that's not my thought. That's just the inner monologue that I'm hyper looping in my head to observe it.
Yeah.
So to speak.
I feel like it's a tough thing that people battle, but it's real, and I know that.
Facts.
My brother passed from suicide. You know what I'm saying? In 2014. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all.
Never gets easier.
But you always wonder why. You get mad at them, and then you wonder why, and then it crosses your mind one day. Sometimes like when you just think too deep of it. I feel like everybody in their life at one time thinks about it. In their life at one time, and it sucks that life gets that tough. But there's always a better day. There's always more life, more love, more beauty that you can see if you just stay.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And also to add what you're saying, there's been times where I was so depressed that I felt like really down on myself. Like, man, like I don't know how I'm gonna do the rest of this life shit. Right? And then the next day you wake up in a different mindset completely.
Just exuberated.
It's like, I can't believe I felt that way until the next time it happens.
Right.
So I think it's really important to monitor yourself day by day, Because that's because I feel like a depression is something you can pull yourself out of if you wake yourself up in it.
Right.
Because I've heard the term pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but I never really understood it until I put it into the context of you waking up inside of your depression.
Right.
Because you could be doing the same things that you always do when you're depressed, but you never call yourself out because you never really realize that you're going through the motions.
Right.
You're just going through the motions. But I realized that the one time when I took my little girl to the park because she was begging me to go, and I didn't really feel like it because I was I was just coming off of being sick, and I was down in the dumps. Nothing felt right, nothing looked right, you know. So I was just like, I don't really want to do anything. She got me to go to the park, and she was smiling, having a great time, laughing, running around, and I was chasing her around like a zombie because I felt like, all dead. And then I asked myself, I'm like, dude, are you really this fucking depressed? Like, are you really this bad that you even the person that you're living for right now is running around having the time of her life, and you're not enjoying any of this? When I asked myself that, I snapped.
Real quick.
I caught myself. I woke myself up, and the next thing you know, I was smiling and I was chasing her around. And then by the time we were done playing, I was a different version of myself.
Right.
I believe that this shit is fucking true.
Yeah.
That you can look in the mirror and smile until it fucking works.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
you're a proponent of positive energy. You are somebody who always carries a positive energy around yourself. How do you find it? How do you find it?
I just don't allow the things that have happened to me to succumb me. I feel like if I wore that on me, I wouldn't be me. I'd be the worst version of me if I wore all of that on me. And it's not fair. It's not fair to do that.
It's not fair to you.
It's not fair to me. It's not fair to the people that I feel like.
So you care so much about everybody that you can't allow that to happen.
I can't.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah, man. But it's...
because that shows how much you actually care about everyone.
Yeah, man. I do.
And there's a science to that, I feel like you power your own energy because it's like solar power. You have a solar power thing going on.
Happy acts, happy thoughts do for people when they come back to you.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah, no, it's true, man.
You can
tell
teach
young people this.
You can teach people how to do that.
Yeah, you can, and I do. I do teach people.
See, now we're getting somewhere because now we're tapping into something that
let's
I want to talk. Let's get into
that. Let's do it.
All right. How do we install these? How does this work? How does it install? How do you do this?
Man, it has to start with you wanting to let go of everything that's burdened you, everything that's hindered you in your mind. From
forgiving yourself?
You have to forgive yourself, yes. But you also have to forgive people first. You have to forgive the person.
Okay.
And that empowers you to then forgive yourself.
Wow.
That's how I feel.
So you have all this freed up hard drive space in your heart, in your soul, in your mind, because you've allowed other people to leave your orbit.
Yeah.
Mentally, spiritually. The connection, the soul tie is cut.
Right. I mean, I feel like we're all put on this earth for connections, to connect with each other. And that's all it is. If you think about life, that's what it is. It's connections everywhere. We're connecting.
If you ain't helping, you're hurting.
Right.
So the connection has to be healthy, or it shouldn't be a connection whatsoever.
And how are you connected? You know?
What's the source?
That's what I'm saying. And when all comes back to your soul and your mind and your body and how you are, I think everything can be so easily deterred. You can easily get off of your balance of who you are and the energy in your mindset and where you're supposed to be in life and what you're working on, what you're doing. You know, all of that can be deterred so easily. But it's just as easy to get yourself right back into your mental space of where you should be, your cloud. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. I think that what's really fascinating too is that we're kind of putting all these things together. Like I've asked you about like where you kind of got your flair for style and stuff like that, but we tied that into how dressing up is important to combat depression and feeling like yourself, feeling as a whole. And then you also like caring about the people who are around you and not subjugating them to the worst version of yourself.
Yeah.
Like there's so many, we're connecting the dots and we're creating like a blueprint that people could follow to achieve some of the enlightenment that you have had yourself. And I think it's fascinating because the more and more that we put these, people are going to have to listen to this podcast a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
They might even have to take some notes.
Yeah, I think they will.
Because I think that it's very important because I see something in you that I know is true. So I wanted to bring it out into the world. And what I know is that you have the ability to overcome any kind of mental thing that's holding you back. Yes, it could be something that's happened today, tomorrow, the past, any kind of time period, but you are able to not let it affect your future moves. And you've said it yourself. It's almost like something that you've installed that's powered by you. It's like an electric car. Right?
Yeah.
You're a Tesla, for God's sakes.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? So you don't need anything but God's energy to be yourself. And I think that, can we speak to the importance of having that connection to a divine entity? Like, because I know a lot of people, they start to stop listening when you start to mention, the Lord or what have we. But I think we live in a time period where it's no longer taboo to speak like that. Kendrick Lamar's made it very popular to speak about, God. Kanye's made it really popular. I mean, regardless of motivations. I really think it's important that people today understand that the picture is so fucking big that we couldn't even understand what it is if we looked at it.
Right.
It's all God's plan. It's all a part of a plan that's so much larger than we are.
Yes, it is.
And if we're conscious to this level, that means we have a part in this.
Yeah.
Because why would we have all this information for no reason?
Right. That was just power, man.
Do you have a connection with a divine entity? Like God, where you feel like He's present in your victories?
Yes, I do.
Speak to that.
Always. Man, I could go so deep into that. I love it. It makes me happy, man. Just to be for real, it's something that I've really found on my own. Because me, being a lesbian, I've always kind of felt like I could never really be in a church for, sakes of judgment. Not saying that I care absolutely what somebody thinks when I'm hearing the word of God, but it's not the rejection that I want to feel in something that means so much to me. That's just to say that. But I do have a relationship, and I've built a relationship with something divine. I feel like I'm more spiritual than religious because I have a relationship with God, and I pray. I pray every night. And that in turn allows me to have someone to speak to lay out everything that I need to at the end of the day.
Like cleanse your palate, so to speak.
Every day. It's like resetting almost. But you have to be fully in your mental for it. I feel like you don't have to be fully in your mental. I feel like it feels better when you're in your mental for it. But I mean, I do it whether I'm faded or,
do you wake up
sober,
Do you wake up the next day with a clear head, a clear conscience, like knowing that you kind of like washed your hands of the day before with your conversations that you have with the Lord, whether it be mentally through meditation or verbally through a prayer? Is that what you feel? Do you feel like you clear the air, so to speak? Like, when you hit the bong and you just air that bitch out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how I feel like it is sometimes.
Yeah.
That's how it feels for me.
I mean, sometimes it does. I know when I do things in both, because they say when you pray, you're giving, like you're giving your spiritualness, and you're connecting. But when you meditate, you're listening. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it takes both, because your mind has to be one with your body. And that's why, supporting to eat right and all that, you know what I'm saying? Like, along with being active, you know what I'm saying? And so, I think it goes all in one, you know what I'm saying? I think at the end of the day, when you wake up in the morning, if you feel like you need to release right at that moment. Right. You know, some people start their day with a prayer.
Yeah.
You know, just because they prayed the night before and they slept heavy. You feel me?
Right,
like,
right.
I've been learning that, to just go to that as my solution every time. You know, my uncle taught me that. You know, he's like, sometimes when we battle things, we battle spirits, we battle thoughts, they're spirits. He's like, everything can be your spirit.
Yeah.
You know,
It comes in many forms.
yes, it does. So it's important to know that your solution is your armor. You know, which is your prayer.
Yeah.
You know, that's your battle armor. That's your
faith.
Yeah.
Your belief in something much larger than you protects you.
Yes. But it feels something divine comes, the connection that you feel with something divine when you pray and you have a prayer answered, or you meditate or you align yourself, you align your chakras, and you wake up that next day with the amount of energy. I didn't used to believe in all this stuff, but when I finally did it, I was like, man, they're not tripping. Like, it's an actual force. It's an actual energy that
your lifestyle
feel.
Changes.
Yes, it does. Your life changes.
Because you start operating in a different fashion immediately.
Yeah. And I tell so many people that, like, that talk to me about meditation and things like that and praying. I tell them, I'm like, man.
And it's amazing how you found it on your own organically.
Yeah.
But you had to go through things.
Oh, yeah, man. I went through a lot before I had to spiritually ground myself into, like, this is what this ain't right. Like, you need to find your soul, find your spirit.
But you've always been self-aware to a certain extent, right? Look, where you know what's going on with you.
Oh, yes, yeah.
For how long? Like, when did you start realizing, like, oh shit, I got this, like I have this inner monologue, like this, you know, because
it wasn't until I tapped in, like, I started, like, experimenting with, like, binaural beats and stuff like that. It's an ancient form of healing and meditation that they used to do back in, like, ancient Egyptian days and Japanese times, where they would play these beats, these healing beats, and it's in today's music, like, as we speak. I know Jenny Aiko does it.
Okay.
A lot of people put healing beats and drums, just like people put frequencies and stuff in their music to make people react a certain way. Our brain reacts to frequencies, whether we know it or not. It's an energy. Everything moves through frequencies and energy.
What's amazing is that people play around with a lot of this stuff without knowing what they're playing around with.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing.
Yes, they do.
Because I would love to see what I'm putting out there. Like, if you were to read it down to, like, okay, he always picks these frequencies for some reason. And it's like, what kind of energy am I putting out there? You know? Like, that's, right. I would love to know that. Yeah. Because a lot of us are unconscious to the things that we do. Like, there's the lyrics that you put on a flow. And there's the delivery, which could mean intent of the lyrics. And then there's production, which has a whole different aspect of its own.
Oh, yeah.
So productions could be speaking to somebody in a certain way, and the lyrics could be speaking the opposite way.
Right.
That's kind of how, like, Kanye West works.
Yeah.
You know, Kanye will have a beat that's really, like, super cheery and uplifting that kind of gives you the feeling that this is who he is.
Right.
But his lyrics could be saying the complete opposite of that. And that was more so before his Jesus is King, and like this God, like this stage he's at now. Right. Before that, you could definitely tell,
right? Because
he was very ironic, where he would be saying one thing, but you would get the impression that he meant another.
Yeah.
You know, that's always been Kanye's music. He always put a lot of humor into things to make things lighthearted.
Yeah.
What I've realized is that when you get big enough, it really amplifies what your intentions are.
No, it does. Yeah.
So something that maybe might be lighthearted or a joke to you could really boil down to being something completely wicked. And that's very interesting, because the bigger you become, the more powerful that your influence has in a negative or positive way, just depending on what your true intentions are.
Yeah. I tell people that all the time, man.
And people don't realize it because they're only as big as they think they're ever going to fucking be at any given time.
Right.
Like, if you work in an office job, you're like, who's the most power I'm ever going to have, right? But us artists, we know that it's a sliding scale.
Right, oh yeah.
You could be small today, and then tomorrow you could be the biggest thing in the fucking world.
Right.
So it's important for us to understand the magic that we have and our ability, but also to understand the power that comes with it and garnishing it, making sure that we don't let it get out of control.
Indeed, yeah.
Do you believe that self-control is always... I always heard self-control is more valuable than gold. And what that means to me is, like, you can buy people with gold.
Right.
But there's people out there who you can't buy with anything.
Very much true. That is very true.
And those people right there, as far as I'm concerned, are king. And unfortunately, they don't always have the things that kings have.
Right.
They might just have a nice, modest home and a nice car and, a family that loves them, which is everything in the world. But society won't look at them as anything special.
Yeah.
Just another brick in the wall. But those people, it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I would like to be. If you live life long enough to see what's really real, then you end up admiring the guy who doesn't need to be on center stage. Or the girl who doesn't need to be on center stage.
Right.
And has the house already, like a little modest house that's within their means, paid off or on their way to paying it off. Their kids always coming home for the holidays and loving their family, because you know that your kids are going to get big and then leave you one day. The same way that you did to your folks.
Yeah.
I think that we get so caught up in our fucking bullshit that we forget what's really real and what really matters. Because you hear about people beefing with family, all sorts of crazy shit, and you're like, how the fuck could you beef with your sister? But it's out there, and people are doing it because they think they're gonna live forever.
Yeah, people, that's people, man. If I could heal the world, man, I would heal the whole world, bro. But it's not like that.
It just takes too much time to try to...
It's too much. You don't have enough time.
So you have to focus on your craft, and that's what in turn heals the world.
Right.
Because look at Pac. What was the saying? Spark the mind. He might not change the world, but he sparks the mind of somebody who definitely will.
Few, man.
Look at Kendrick.
Yeah.
Pac met Kendrick when he was a little kid.
I bet.
So that spark was more of like a fucking
flame.
A flare. Like,
yeah.
Oh shit! I just made a connection. Hey, when Kendrick Lamar did "Humble," and his fucking head was on fire, it's because that was the spark that Tupac lit to change the world. He said, "I'm gonna spark the mind of the kid who's gonna change the world." So in "Humble," when he has the fire on his head, he's the mind that sparked to change the world. Is Kendrick that deep?
He probably is. I know he is. He's...
Because what is
very
this?
Poetic, man.
What was the fire for on his head on "Humble"?
It had to be that.
That's
why he's
thing.
humble. He's giving his paying his homage.
His homage to Pac.
He's paying his homage.
That makes me like Kendrick so fucking. But if it wasn't even possible, like things like that are the reason why I like that motherfucker.
Yeah, no, and he's very political. Very.
Wow, that's deep. If only. And the only way that you can be that fucking legendary and iconic is if you think about things so profoundly that you can take them apart and put them back together.
Yeah, he's a genius. Yeah.
Sorry, this turned into a Kendrick.
That's all right. That's all right.
But the way I feel about him is the way most people feel about Nipsey too. Like, we're talking about Californian, gods. So these two guys right here in particular would be on your California. Or even rap Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, yes indeed.
You know what I'm saying? Nipsey, Kendrick. I'd probably put Cube up there. Snoop. Just that right there alone. That really means a lot to me.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, Doggy Style. Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style.
Yeah.
Was one of the first records that I ever had.
Oh yeah.
And I was like 3 or 4 years old, like when that shit came out. I even had 2 Live Crew. At that age. You know what I'm saying? This hip-hop shit is so deeply ingrained in me that nobody could ever tell me a fucking thing. Like, they can't say I'm not hip-hop because I get my whole life is incubated through it. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
So, like, I feel like I am a voice that people can listen to and know that there's authenticity tied behind the things that I say.
Right.
And you're also somebody who I respect in the sense that when you say something, I know that has your stamp.
Oh, yeah.
It has your stamp of approval. You're never going to push no bullshit because you never have to.
Right.
There's been times where you had my back that I didn't see something coming around the corner and you saw it coming around the corner.
Oh,
so you put me on game. You know, things like that. Your authenticity level is what I determine my respect from you.
That's right,
because you could be the most caring individual in the world, but if I see you walk around the corner and do some crazy shit, then I have to discount it as some, you know.
Right.
But if you're 10 toes down and you have a big heart, it's like this person surpasses the grading scale that I could give them.
Yeah.
You know, you're just that kind of a person who I would love to put on a stage or put money into, invest into, because I know that the message that you're gonna put out there is not gonna poison or taint anybody's minds. Because you give a fuck about people, you care about people. People like you make me double think my appreciation for certain idols. You know?
It's that way sometimes, bro.
Like we were talking about Kanye West a little earlier. I mean, I think a lot of Kanye West fans want to see him win so bad because they want to see themselves win so bad.
Yeah.
Because he represents what a lot of us are.
Oh, yeah. They're fighting the battle with him.
And the reason we admire him is because he takes risks when some of us don't.
Right.
But because he took risks when he started to be able to afford the risks, we think that he takes risks like since the beginning. And he could have very well taken risks, but he didn't really take a risk until after the car accident. When he got in the car accident, that's when you started seeing him rapping through his fucking jaw wire.
Yeah.
That was a huge risk in itself. And then after that, Jesus Walks, that was a huge risk in itself. Like, and then he did all the like as you started to continue to go through each album, he does things that he did the Evil Knievel music video. We have Pamela Anderson in the fucking video. Like, he does certain things that are not supposed to work by any means, but he still pulls them off, and it becomes his whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
When he dressed up like a Japanese kid, an anime kid with fucking shutter glasses, and he had the whole Tokyo fucking vibe and shit going on. He makes everything work.
Yes, he does.
He's like a fucking Ken doll. You go put him in any kind of theme, and he's got a new version of Kanye.
That's Kanye, man. That's he's
product. He is product.
That's Kanye, man, and he just evolves with whatever he needs to.
So it's possible to admire something about somebody and hate them for a different thing.
I mean, I fucked with Kanye's whole Dropout album when it first came out. That was back when I was throwing my mic over the vent, bro. Yeah. Straight up, man. I really did. And then, like, you know, just as I seen him grow as a person, I knew he was just somebody that was... He's hurt, he's misunderstood, but he's got to a point in his life where he's just on, like... I feel like he gives a fuck, but he don't. You get what I'm saying? I don't know if you feel me on that. Like,
yeah, no, he cares enough.
He cares enough. He cares enough to where he's like, I'm gonna do this my way.
So his heart's in the right place.
Right, but I feel like I admire Kanye because he is like a booming bullet. Like, he can bust through anything. Like we were talking about earlier, he can literally never lose so hard where he can't come back and win. He's just gonna keep coming back until he wins.
Because he owns his jackassness.
Yes, he does.
The fact that he's a jackass, he owns it.
He owns it, bro.
Like when we're talking about how somebody can play the jester in between kingdoms in the court and pull the attention from the kingdoms and the people. That's really the Kanye blueprint. Because Kanye really created that. Because you can't really say that Eminem did the same thing. Because Eminem was underground until he wasn't. He was underground battling, and then he was Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
You know? Well, Kanye, it was different because he was in the industry, and he had to prove himself from day one.
Yeah.
He was the producer who gave Jay all the hot beats for the blueprint.
For real.
Right? And then from there, he had to leverage the beats to get a record contract with Rockefeller. And he took a lot less money in order for him to throw up the rock sign. Because Capitol wanted to give him more money, but he didn't have no cosign to leverage his cool off of. So he became the anti-Rockefeller member or artist by being a Rockefeller artist, but staying the same and not changing. Right. So the pink polos and the Louis Vuitton backpack became the new look for the prep. because there was a voice in the hip hop community, in the African American community, that it hadn't been established yet. It's the same way how Lupe Fiasco established the skateboarder.
Right.
Well, Kanye established the college dropout prep, or the college going prep. Kind of like how Drake embodied the college student. Because Drake rapped about college campus for fucking 3 or 4 fucking albums. Like, he was talking about, you know, picking a girl up off of fucking her sorority room, and like all sorts of crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
These artists embody a prototype or an archetype for so long until it doesn't work anymore, and then they have to rebrand themselves.
I believe that.
So Kanye was the college dropout until he became the superstar rapper that he was, and then he became the fucking godlike idol that he wanted to portray. Because he graduated to being in the Prince and Michael Jackson and Celine Dion and Whitney Houston, you know, all the ones that tragically fucking died. He graduated into that class when he did Yeezus. Because he started to portray himself as a godlike figure, as opposed to just the regular everyday, what do they call it, the working man, like the everyday working man, like the people that we could relate to because we see him walking down the street, or we work with him, or we go to school with him, right? So now he's in the stratosphere, and Drake is in the stratosphere as well.
Yeah, he's made himself.
Once you created, like when he was the sixth god, he created this whole like, I'm a god, but I'm larger than life kind of thing. But they all die tragically. And I think that both of these fucking guys have cemented they're pretty much going out blazing. I don't think that you have to do that to get those levels of success. Look at Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar won a Pulitzer Prize. Every album he's dropped has been a 5-star classic. And I don't really feel like he's sold his soul, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, not at all. You can just tell by the way that he talks. He's just been around some dark things. I think that that's why he's able to still continue to rap the way he raps. It fuels his art.
You notice that you hear his wisdom talking and not even him talking anymore? Like, when he used to talk back in the day, it was Kendrick Lamar. But now when you hear him talk, it's like the wisdom that he has inside of him is now doing all the talking.
Yeah.
When he came back and made an announcement of where he's been the past 4 years.
Right.
And he talks about how he's collected a bunch of beach cruisers and he's been riding his bike and on hills and shit. It sounds like he's searching for some sort of inner peace. Because he's trying to keep the outside world from infecting his mind and his body and his soul.
Indeed.
So all we hear is wisdom. That's who's speaking. The inner Zen is speaking right now.
Yeah.
And Drake really thinks that this guy's not going to tear him apart? Limb from limb. He is literally here only for one reason. To take Drake apart. When he came out and he said, top 5. Smoking on your top 5. I'm that guy. Yo, number 2, slide in my DM. I don't even ask why. Like when he says that, like I was like, oh my god, he is lining Drake up.
Shots fired.
He said that Drake's number 2 and I'm number 1. And he said, you're sliding in my bitch's DM and I don't even gotta ask why. You want this smoke, bitch. You want to die. That's what I love about Kendrick, because he will literally get wild when he needs to get wild.
Nah, he's a gangster.
He is a fucking
but he's a
gangster.
poet, man. He's a superstar.
He is Pac. Like, he is Pac. Because Pac literally gave his life to this music. He gave his life. He could have completely chilled the fuck out. Or maybe he couldn't. Because his shit was gone. He was all go. But Kendrick has a restraint and a wisdom to him that Pac didn't have. Kendrick learned from having lost Pac as a fan. Pac didn't have that. Because before Biggie and Pac, we didn't lose superstars like that. After them, we lose superstars like that.
No, for real.
We just lost Pop Smoke and King Von and Nipsey Hussle. Like, in the span of what, 2.5, 3 years?
Yeah, rest in peace.
It's not like the world is any more dangerous than it's ever been. It's just now we have more access to information.
No, for real, man. I mean, shit. I mean...
You put the wrong ideas.
Kanye posted Drake's address on Twitter.
He did, which was really weird because what that meant to me was that he did something on accident.
Right there.
He did that on accident. Like, this dumbass did it by accident. And he tried to delete it real quick because he was probably like snooping on Drake's crib or whatever, or like just making jokes, and then he accidentally posts this motherfucker's plays, right? Well, an accident can turn into a real life thing. Look at what happened to Pop Smoke. He posted his address by accident. But then it comes out that the fact that they were plotting on him for a week. So it wasn't even him posting his address that got him killed. It was the fact that he was bringing over the same girls to the same location, and they were connected to the guys who maybe didn't have as much resources as Pop Smoke. And that's what happened.
Yeah, and that's a messed up thing, man.
We lost one of the greatest artists. The real threat to Drake was Pop Smoke. Because he was going to change music in a big fucking way.
Oh, yeah, he was, man.
Because he was coming in the game global. He died and sold, 3 million records. Imagine if he would have been alive. We would have saw 50 Cent Part 2. For real. For real. He would have done 6, 7, 8 million. For real. Especially when people don't have to drive to Best Buy.
Oh, yeah.
Easy. The songs he made, they still burn.
Yeah,
timeless. He made songs for girls. He made songs for goons. He made songs. He was a songwriter. Migos fucking cowered around Pop Smoke. They were over there in the studio trying to record as much music as they could with Pop because they knew that he was incredible. Everybody who was popping, except for Drake, went around Pop Smoke. Drake knew. Drake stays around for motherfuckers that he's gonna have to worry about. Mm-hmm. Look at XXXTentacion. If you see a rapper out there that he hasn't reached out to, there's a fucking reason why. He just recently reached out to Lil Uzi, but how many years did he avoid Uzi? Drake didn't want it with Uzi when Uzi had it going on. Because Uzi had a fucking cult-like fan base the same way X did. And a beef with Uzi or one of these guys is only going to make them 10 times more popular.
Nah, for real.
But Drake waits till people cool themselves off and then he comes through and does a song with them. Because he's got something with X or Uzi right now. And he just did something with Trippie Redd. Like, he waits till them when they're kind of hot. He does a song and he might tease it a little bit, but he won't release the song, right? But when he's the hottest artist, he'll drop the song. So he comes and does the song with Trippie Redd. Boom! It comes out the very next fucking day. It wasn't even on the first initial drop of Trippie Redd's last album that he just dropped. But the very next day, it was a bonus track that was on the album because Drake's project was coming out the next week. Drake's got power. He can literally interrupt anybody's release. He can interrupt anybody's release and then put a song that's mainly about him on their shit. Look at Sicko Mode. Sicko Mode was literally a diss track to Kanye, but it was also, the music video was a shot at XXX's death.
Ooh.
Do you remember the kid who gets hit by a meteorite in the fucking music video?
I didn't see that one.
That's X. That they're mocking the death of X with the meteorite hitting him.
Ooh.
Meteorite is symbolism for the bullet that shot him. And also, the meteorite is metaphorically Drake, because he's in the airplane and then he becomes a meteor that hits the kid who looks like X. Dude, Drake obviously thinks that everybody is so fucking stupid, or he's connected with entities that would make sure that he never was implicated for anything. Because how in the fuck can you blatantly brag about being involved in something that people know that you were involved with?
It's that power for you.
It's power, man. And by the time he hears this shit, it won't even matter. So I talk freely about this shit. You know what I'm saying?
It won't even matter.
I talk freely about this because I think that the world needs to open their eyes, but their third eye specifically. If you can read between the lines, then you can see what's really going on in real time with a lot of these people. It's a wicked game of chess.
It is, man. People always say that, man. It's chess, not checkers.
That's right. Speaking of the game, the rap game, what is this new project that you're approaching or starting to materialize? Like, what direction are you taking your music in 2021 and 2022?
Oh man, well, I worked for y'all this summer. You feel me? Just this past summer, man. last summer I got in the studio. I recorded about 60 tracks. Almost at least 20 some 30 some out of them were features. You know what I'm saying? And what I did was I just did a whole year and a half's worth of work. You feel me? The project that I'm putting together now is martial law. It's already finished. I'm just getting some things finished, tied up with it, to where I can release it. Just waiting on a few contracts and things like that. But man, I'm excited for that one. I called it martial law just because, in year 2020 they hit us with the COVID. You feel me? And I feel like everybody was so locked in, and we actually almost went into a martial law. It was it was in the news everywhere. People were talking about it, but I felt like it was right for the times. But I felt like martial law is also me really putting my foot down, like you gotta listen to this. This is me. This is really me. I dropped The Beginning of Greatness when I was in college, and I dropped The Landing in 2020. And so this year I'm gonna be dropping martial law, and right after that's gonna come What Lies Within. And these two projects, I'm super excited to get these out to y'all and to get these out to everybody, because it's really everything that I've went through in my prime. I feel like in what I'm going through in my prime, and I think a lot of people will be able to relate to it. A lot of people will be able to relate to getting back to themselves in this album, especially martial law. People will find a lot of truths, a lot of answers, and a lot of solutions to their own problems just based off of what happened to me. You feel me? And that's just because I do put my truth in everything, and I'm not gonna get on no bullshit.
Yeah,
sure.
You're not gonna serve something that's sugar coated or against what you stand for.
Yeah.
So I love the concept of martial law, like how it correlates with our real time, but also how it has a deeper meaning to how you're putting your foot down.
Right.
That's so important for artists to understand, that you can have it your way. It just might mean that you have to take a little bit more time, or you have to spend a little bit more resources.
Yes, sir.
But to own it is to know what it means to do it.
Right.
Because until you own it fully, you're not really doing it. You make the jokes constantly about YouTube artists who have tag beats and things of that nature, because that's one of those things that's so amateur. Like if you're doing a mixtape, it's promotion. I get it. You leave the tags on, it's promotion for the producer. But when it's repeatedly going through the whole fucking beat every 4 counts, that's something that's like, okay, at what point is this not promotion anymore?
Right.
But then when you're talking about albums, we can't do YouTube beats on the album.
Right.
We don't own that. And this is what I want to get along to a lot of young artists, is understand that when you want to create music that's timeless, you have to own it. You can't create these mixtape bangers that you think people are going to run to, because that's not your identity. That's not you. Right. No matter how much you think it is, it's not you. You could have the most craziest bars ever. It's always going to be mixtape shit.
Yeah.
People love Chief Keef's mixtape shit, but it's always his mixtape shit. It's never his beats. You can say that for any artist. Look at Wayne. When Wayne was rapping over Knuck If You're Buck, it's one of the craziest times you ever hear Wayne, but you won't ever hear it, ever, outside of just people who know about it.
Right.
Because people will play Fireman or go DJ before they ever play any of the mixtape Weezy shit.
Right.
Because it's always disregarded or discounted to lesser value.
Yes, it is.
So ownership is something I preach to young artists, because you really have to own your shit. You will be discounted and disvalued otherwise.
Yes, you will.
It's simple and plain. And another thing I want young artists to know is that it takes so long for you to have it your way. If you want to be an artist that has their own creative output 100%, you got to realize that you have to build it from the ground up. There is no having somebody invest money in you and they don't have a say in what you do.
Right.
If they put money in it, they have a say of what you do. And you have to do it, or else they turn the faucet off on you, and then you can't drink anymore.
Yeah.
That's another thing these young artists, because I listen to these young guys go off of what they learned from academics and all these other fucking Adam 22, and they only get 1/3 of the fucking idea. they don't even get the full scoop because they don't speak to it in depth whenever they hear it in an article. So they just take it for surface value. But when you hear a podcast like ours, we break it down, we go through it, and you get the full understanding of the idea.
Right.
So these young artists, if you had to give some game to the young artist, just a couple things. What's going to make their path easier for them? What are some things that we could tell them that would kind of like light the way?
Man, I tell them work on one project at a time.
Boom.
You know,
Bang.
that's just from the beginning. Work on one project at a time, or get a bunch of material together and then just drop it as you have the funds for it. And that's literally what I do.
But to drop it, you're meaning video, song, cover.
Yes.
Apple link, Spotify link.
I'm talking distributor.
You have to button it all up.
All of it. It's got to be yours, and that's the only way you're gonna be successful off this. I have a homie that does this and does not have a job. You know what I'm saying? His job is music. Like, this is what he wakes up and does every day. You know what I'm saying? And he pays himself, man. And he pays the people around him. He basically uses his catalog and portions it out at a percentage to the people that he works with, as far as promoters, people on tour, his camera guy, whoever. And that's how they get paid, and they stay paid.
If you think about how the way that music works with the splits and everything, with like Spotify, Apple Music, you get a check from all of these big streaming platforms. It's possible for you to make money. I mean, it's not as much, but it's more consistent than like an NFT or a cryptocurrency. It's a futuristic way of accumulating money, because every single song that you drop, if you put a powerful enough motor in the song, it powers itself.
Yes, it does.
It gains its own revenue over time, and then it becomes like, let me give you an example. I have a song with Indie. It's called CBC Chick. On Spotify alone, it's gotten upwards to like 15K plays. At that point, I don't have to share it again on any platform. It's going to get its fans on its own.
Yeah.
Because it's already proven to do so up until 15K. And I got other songs that maybe have 2 or 3K on just Spotify alone. It shows you that the motor is strong, but not as strong as that other song.
Right.
So, like, these ideas that you could put 1,000 songs out there and they all have an individual responsibility of earning their own income. That's money. That's money we're talking. You put 7 hours of music out there and then you promote it to the right extent, you don't have to work anymore.
That's real. Yeah.
So that's why we speak with the confidence we do, because we do have the music. Maybe it's just hasn't hit the right amount of years yet.
Yeah.
So that being said, I want these young listeners to understand you can make music for 20 years and barely start to get the checks that you've always dreamed about.
That's very true.
On year 21.
That's very true. It takes a long time, a lot of building to actually do this and be sufficient in it.
It really has. Because how long has your journey gone from? Like,
man, I've been like physically recording music since age 18. Feel me? I just turned 30 this year. Whoop, whoop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put a good 12 years in.
You know what I'm saying? So it's about that time. It's my peaking time. It's time for me to start blooming out on the world, and I think that's where this year's heading. Major platforms. And
is it so much more the art that you have to put together, or just the strategies?
It's really the strategies and me just building this solid team in this past year or two, getting around better resources, so that way I can elevate in the direction that I need to, and something that's going to be successful for me and sufficient.
So building a team, that's important.
It's very important. Very important. I know people usually try and just build these groups, or, oh, hey, my homie raps, he raps, let's do it together. But then they aren't putting as much energy into maybe promoting it, or individually growing as an individual artist, because that's just how it should be. If you really care about putting your music out, I just feel like if everybody really focused on the independency of their music and where it could go, and not worried about so much creating and doing things for fun and as a hobby, it would go to better places for them.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree.
I feel like that, yeah.
I totally agree. And we're getting to a good point of where I want to kind of wrap things up and get some good ideas. I want to get your final words out on a couple of things, and I also want you to plug in people with your pages and where they can find you at and things of that nature. Do you have any kind of like final ideas that you want to kind of seal this podcast episode with? Like maybe some words of encouragement, or maybe just some ideas you want to put out in the ethos, you know? If you wanted to stamp this session with that lyrical authenticity, what would you say? Who are you talking to? What are you doing?
Man, I tell y'all always, like I tell the people that's close to me, live, love, and learn. You know, and do it in an evolving way. And you know, if you have a passion, do it. If you don't, find yourself and find it. That's what I was saying. Find yourself and find it. That's real. Find yourself.
That's powerful right there. I think that might name this podcast "Find Yourself and Find It."
That's real.
But where can we find you? What platforms can we stream your music and connect with you?
Check me out on iTunes, Deezer.
Under Lyric?
Yes, under Lyric. Check me out on
LYRIC?
Yes, sir. LYRIC. Find me on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Play, all major platforms, YouTube channels, Love Lyric 10. My Instagram is Lyric the One with the number 1 all together. And check me out on Facebook, all my recent show updates, tickets, whenever I have shows and all that. So Lyric Leah Atkins on Facebook. Tap in with me.
All right. And I'm Tri-Town Tory, and I'm gonna wrap this up and to say that it's been an honor to have Lyric come through to the Tory Talk podcast.
Hey,
and we're gonna have to do a round 2. You know,
yes, sir.
I like to get it in the second round after we let it marinate after the first one comes out. And relink and then hit the bags again, so to speak.
Yes, this was fun. This has been fun.
So thank you so much. You already know, man. It's always love, and it's always
love.
going to be that way. You can always come to the platform. One love, 1,000.
Peace.